Hi everyone, Mike the MC, bringing another self-care video. Sharing information that other people have, they all have the same questions. Right, I think this is an interesting theme. If people have the same question in mind, everyone has something similar to think about. And I think the whole idea with similar questions that we all have in mind is when someone asks, don't you appreciate that they asked that question? And you're like, okay, I'm glad that person actually brought that up. I was kind of curious about that idea. And this stems from a meeting I just had with another colleague in the same business that we're in. And it's like, all right, we're setting things up and it's a question of, all right, how do we set up our address for this part of our business? Or is it for who's sponsoring us, right? How do we go about making business work and worthwhile so that way we're safe and everything is legal and okay, right? And so my friend asked some really good questions. And the thing was, by hearing all those answers, you start to think, wow, okay, I'm glad someone was asking those because now I feel safe. Someone was considering these things I never thought of before. And now all of a sudden, now everything's going to be something to address, right? Now I can address it myself and bring it up to support. And I think when people are learning new things, when we're having information, the same stuff that we're trying to understand, I think, yeah, there's trial and error, but then you got to wonder, okay, after you've gone through trial and error, who do you ask for the answers, right? Do you go to the support? Do you ask another colleague? Do you go and talk with another person that is already moving forward in the same business as you? And you're wondering, okay, where do I get all the advice? The thing is, you have open communication and you're asking questions openly. That's the key as far as succeeding. And I think that is something that we can all share about. Once we stop asking questions, once we stop having communication, we cease to grow. We cease to have information shared that can be very vital. Now, one drawback of a question is if you ask the question and someone shares a matter of opinion and then everyone else jumps on it, right, that may eliminate some options. But is that what you're trying to achieve? Just present some options so then once people pick, at least something's picked and we move forward. Right, what is the objective of asking the question as far as who you're teaching, who your audience is, what you're trying to accomplish? I would argue if you have those kind of answers already in mind, what you're trying to accomplish with the questions and the curiosity involved, if you want the curiosity or if you just want straight information, all right, now you're all moving forward. You've accomplished the objectives of what you're trying to get done with those questions. But I think when you're trying to get the context of a story, when you're trying to understand the ins and outs, the characters, the people, the environments involved, the currencies, right, all those things, that matters. That matters, but it makes you a reliable person, an individual who can do business because you're asking the important questions. You're getting what has to be done asked. And then when you find the professionals who can get everything solidified for you and your business and for everybody else that you can share the kind of resources with, it makes you a reliable person. And I think as far as sharing information as well, and then everyone asking questions on the information, you are now trusting the information that you're teaching about. You're able to now share what you know. So that way when people do ask a question, you can look back and say, oh, I didn't think of it like that. That's pretty clever that you brought that up. Thank you for bringing that into mind. Now I can relate that to my understanding to teach a better concept a lot more fluidly, more directly. Because now I don't have to be so vague. I could just share with you an answer and then we could go into exploration later. And so when you're asking good questions, oh, sorry, I thought I heard something from outside the house. Sorry, I had a little blank stare right there. When you see, I was wondering the context of the situation right there, the content, right? What was happening in my environment? So when you have a curious mind of what is happening, be aware of how you can respond to your environment, ask questions, be curious of what's happening around you, and you will start to build an awareness to where you will be very responsive and reliable. So that way you can trust your senses and you can build upon those senses and share the answers with other people and they will start to develop as well. Things to consider. All right, everyone. Hope this one finds you well. Take care. Have a good one.